G'day. In this video, I'm going to show you how to look at the last couple of data layers and what they mean. So I've got Marysville open, the data for Marysville, which I downloaded as a KMZ file. We've already looked at the fire history layer. We're now going to look at the fire management zone layer and the recent planned burn. So I'll turn on the fire management zones, and you can see they've been arranged by color based on the zone. So it's important to have a look at the zone within your study area, but also the surrounding region. And if you left click on them, they'll tell you, okay, so the yellowy color is plan burn exclusion zone, which means they can't plan burn in that area. Then we've got the landscape management zone. We've got the light blue, which is bushfire moderation zone, asset protection zone, and non-FPA land. And the description of what all those zones mean is in your notes. One thing you'd want to do is compare the proportion of all of those zones within your two study areas and try and think about what that means for fire vulnerability. So if there's a lot of asset protection zones, that might mean there's a lot of planned burning that takes place, whereas if there's exclusion zones or non-FPA land, those are areas where planned burns can't take place, and so that might make an area more vulnerable. So have a look at not only your study area, but the surrounding region where a fire may travel from. One really good thing to look at to understand these layers is what's actually underneath them. So here I've got the fire management zone highlighted. I've got this opacity slider turned on, and I can just turn this up and down, and you might be able to have a look at the association between where non-FPA land might be and where asset protection zone might be, and what's actually behind there in the satellite image. Rather than turning the layers on and off, it can be really handy. For example, you may want it half turned on, and then you can still see the layer, but you can see what's behind it as well. Another layer that you'll be using is the recent planned burns layer. So if I turn that on, you'll see in purple, you've got this happened in 2015. That burn happened. This one happened in 2016, and this one happened in 2014. So the lighter the color means the more recent the planned burns. And you can have a look at planned burns in the surrounding region as well. Part of your activity is going to be looking at the association between where the planned burns happened and where the management zones are. So once again, you could adjust your slider. You could turn this down, and I can see, okay, in this particular study area, all of the planned burns happened in this medium blue color. What is that? That's asset protection zone. So they've obviously lit those fires to try and protect the valuable assets. And how do I know what those assets are? Well, I can go to the fire management zone. I can turn down the layer, and I can have a look what's underneath there. Another layer you'll need after, there's a task where you have to predict where future planned burns might take place. After you've done that, you can actually turn on the future planned burns layer. Here I've got that switched on, and you can have a look at, this is a burn that's proposed to happen in 2019, 2017 and 2018. So you can have a look at where DELP are planning to do their burns in the future. While we're at Marysville, I just want to show you the data for one of the extension activities on fire severity. I've downloaded this one. It's quite a large one to download, so be patient with it. It looks pretty cool. This is an arrangement of showing you the severity of the fires that occurred on the Black Saturday fires in Marysville. So the dark red, that's a crown burn, so a really high intensity fire, whereas the lighter green, no crown burning, understory was burnt, so the grasses under the trees, etc. No crowns scorched, no understory burnt, so that's a very low intensity fire, whereas the orange and the yellow are moderate intensity. So you can have a look at the distribution within the Murrumbidgee Shire of how devastating the Black Saturday bushfire was. And you can try and think about, using the slider again, you can try and think about things like the land cover, but also maybe the elevation, and have a look at how that managed to influence the severity of the fire. One other thing I want to show you, back on the fire management zones, I'll just turn off the fire severity. This layer here, this data is actually available for all of the bushfire risk landscapes. If you remember right from the start, we had the different bushfire risk landscapes. So Marysville is part of the East Central. DELP actually have their own maps for these bushfire management zones, and I'll show you on the website. So it's delp.vic.gov.au/safer-together, and if I go down here, I've got all my bushfire risk landscapes listed. I want to go to East Central, and I want to go, it has some information about fuel management, the characteristics of the area which would be useful. Summary of the bushfire management plan. I want to download this one. That's not what I wanted, sorry. This is the one. Yep, it's loaded up here. And yeah, here's a map which has the same stuff that you've been looking at: asset protection zone, bushfire management zone, etc. And you can have a look at how those are all arranged. So you can see Marysville here. So it's a similar sort of map, but it's for the entire region rather than your particular study area. But it can be a good way to have a look at what's in the surrounding region. And down here it's got some information about that as well. And here you've got some information about the planned burns and the residual risk and how that changes over time based on big fires. So here was the risk, quite a high risk. All of a sudden we had a devastating fire in 2009, and the risk went way down because all of that forest was burnt, which means it wasn't dangerous for a little while, or not as dangerous. And then as things started to regrow again, the risk came up again, and then we've got some projected risk for the future. So that can be a really good place to find additional information that you may want to use in your final report or your discussion questions.